Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm Musgrove. Hope you guys are doing well. Give this video a thumbs up, hit subscribe to the channel. Plenty of Newcastle United content coming your way. We're going to talk about Jamaal Lascelles today, Newcastle United's club captain, extending his stay at the club until the summer of 2025. He's had a contract extension of 1 year. Has been triggered. Not too sure whether that's because he's hit a certain amount of appearances this season or whether there was a mutual agreement between the club and the player. And to be fair, from a Newcastle United fan point of view, I don't really care. I'm just over the moon that he is staying potentially for another 12 months. He's been absolutely fantastic this season. Surprised a lot of people. And if you follow the podcast, you follow this channel, you will know that I've been calling for this deal for many, many months, simply because he has risen to the challenge when called upon. He's become a better player by not playing football. And then when he had to step into the team to replace Sven Botman, and he did so for many, many weeks, if not months, he very rarely let Newcastle United down. In fact, he put in several man-of-the-match performances, keeping players like Kylian Mbappe quiet, which shocked, to say, me, probably you guys as well. But he's earned this new deal. It's worked out for the best. A year's deal. It's not a long contract. It keeps him in and around at the club for 12 months, which is really sensible. He's obviously not going to be a first choice centre back because that will likely be Sven Botman and Fabian Schär, and they will probably go out and buy another centre back in the summer. But Lascelles will be there to fill in when needed, to continue to push Schär, Botman, and another signing if indeed one does come in. And that's really good. That element of competition. Schär and Botman know they cannot rest for a moment because they've got Lascelles right on the back of their heels. He's a capable Premier League defender. He could start, I think, for probably most of the lower teams in the Premier League. And some people listening and watching this will say, well, there you go. Why should he be at Newcastle United if they're aiming for top 4, top 6? Because it's about building the squad. It's about making sure Eddie Howe has options throughout every single position. And with Jamaal Lascelles, he provides a really good backup option. And then someone, when called upon, who can step up to the first team and really do a good job for Newcastle United. I know he made a mistake against Blackburn, and that was kind of the pylon. Get him out of the club. Every defender makes mistakes. Loads of people quite rightly celebrating Fabian Schär's contract extension, but he's got a mistake in him more often than not, and he doesn't seem to get as much flack as Jamaal Lascelles. I mean, I don't want to see anyone getting flack if I'm truthful, but I'm just giving you the comparison there. But great news, fantastic news for me that Lascelles has got this deal. I have to say, the reaction across social media hasn't been wholly in favour of it. I will be honest, actually, a lot more people in favour of it than they were a few months ago when I did a video calling for Lascelles to stay. Still, a few people wanting him gone. A few people can't really understand why Newcastle United have done it. Saying, for example, one tweet I got was talking about the progression of the club. If Newcastle United want to progress, they've got to get players like Lascelles out of the door, and then throwing them into the same bracket as Paul Dummett and Matt Ritchie and Mark Gillespie, which I think is really unfair. No disrespect to Paul Dummett, Matt Ritchie, or Mark Gillespie. Lascelles has had a real prominent first team role to play this season. Matt Ritchie has had a bit part, and we haven't seen Dummett or Mark Gillespie for God knows how long. I can see those three heading out in the summer. I wouldn't be against that. I think it's probably time to move them on. But for me, keeping Jamaal Lascelles is absolutely crucial, because what it allows you to do off the field is prioritize funds elsewhere. Getting a player in of Jamaal Lascelles' quality is not going to be easy. Okay, look, he's not going to be a Champions League winner. He's not going to walk into a Man City or an Arsenal, but he is more than capable of holding his own in a top Premier League side like Newcastle United. And to have him as a backup is really important. What he's going to be paid. I don't know how much he's paid a week, but you're going to have to think about that if you're going to replace him. The transfer fee to replace someone like Lascelles will not be cheap either. And by keeping him on for a year, allows Newcastle United just to move those funds onto another player that they can bring in. So instead of spending, 10, 15 million on a back-up centre-back, because that's what it would be to replace Jamaal Lascelles, you keep Lascelles, you keep his leadership, you keep his quality, you keep his work ethic, you keep a fantastic character around the dressing room, you keep the club captain who, Eddie Howe trusts, you keep everything that's good about him, all those qualities, and then you don't have to go and spend a load of money on someone who's not going to play and potentially kick up a fuss later down the line for not playing. That's the other thing. Lascelles doesn't complain. He just works hard week in, week out on the training ground. You know, he understands his position. He understands that he needs to be as well top level when called upon, and that's been proven this season. He's got a great character. It just makes sense. And then that 10, 50 million pounds that you were going to spend on a backup centre back can go and maybe be added to the money you're going to spend on a new striker, or you're going to spend on a new left back, or you're going to spend on a new centre midfielder, that number 6 Newcastle are crying out for. You know, there is a ton of positive reasons from financial point of view that this makes 100% sense for me. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm going to read through now some of the replies I got on social media, because there were quite a few. But like I say, from my point of view, I think this makes total sense for Newcastle United. I mean, there's a lot of people just wanting a big, massive clear out. That's not going to happen. Newcastle United cannot afford to get rid of 7, 8, 9 players this summer, because how do you replace them? They're going to have funds. They're going to have more funds to spend, definitely more funds than they did in January, but they're going to have money to spend, but it's not going to be an endless checkbook. It's not going to be an endless pot of cash to spend, is it? At all. Not at all. So you've got to be clever. And just keeping Lascelles here for 12 months, as I say, allows other priorities to be acted upon. And that's, I think, the real clever bit about it. As I say, you're chucking his character, doesn't complain at all. Brilliant work ethic. It makes 100% sense. Let me read you now some of the comments. We've got United saying, fair enough, 1-year deal, a good 10 seasons spent at the club. It's deserved, but that should be it then. I agree. I think after 12 months, you would probably see a move on. Newcastle may have brought in another centre-back. Alex Murphy then might be, ready to challenge for first team football. But for the next 12 months, it makes 100% sense. Hey, he could lead Newcastle out to an FA Cup final this year. You never know. Jimmy says he's earned it with his performances this season. He thinks they'll sign another centre-back. AJ saying, all these people saying, move him on. Have a look at yourselves. He's been fantastic for us. And what he brings to the team, instantly he's still captain for a reason. He says you can't just buy someone to replace that. Bearside says his game has improved a lot. Makes sense to me. We must be prioritizing other positions, which is the point I'm kind of trying to get across. Hopefully it's coming across. We've got one person saying the bottom line is FFP is the result of these type of extensions. Lascelles is a great team captain and a great squad player. Good decision for this stage of the project. And that's what it is. You're not going to go out and spend a 70, 80 million pound centre back when there's other priorities. We have got some negative comments. FPL Howe says, just now, Richie Dummett, Hendrick to re-sign, can't wait. Swampy says, costs us a fortune to replace him, to be fair, so he's on board with the signing. And there's a lot of people just kind of applauding this move, which is really pleasant to see. Liam, however, does say, great servant, but we need to be moving these types of players on to progress. So would you move them on? Would you keep them? We've got Gary saying we need to move on these fringe players and bring in better quality. But I've got to say, Gary, I don't think he's been that much of a fringe player. He's been first team player for quite a lot of this season. And he's probably the player on the fringes of the first team. So yes, he is a fringe player in that instance, but he's probably the player who is more likely than any other to kind of step up to the plate. And look, I'm more than over the moon for this. It would cost a load to get rid of him. A load to get rid of him. Go and spend that money somewhere else. Eddie Howe was asked, of course, about this in the press conference when he confirmed to my colleague Lee Ryder that Jamaal Lascelles had signed a new deal, and he was talking about how Lascelles has still got an integral part to play at Newcastle United. He said he's done us incredibly well, both as a leader and captain of the group, but also as a player. His game has really developed. He's played an important part in this season. When he's played, he's been excellent. There's good competition for places in that area now, but he's an integral part of what we are doing. He went on to say, regarding his contract situation, it is not unclear in my mind. I think he has a contract for next year. No, it doesn't expire in June. And yes, it has already been triggered, of course. Lascelles arriving from Nottingham Forest in 2014 in a deal with Col Darlow. I think he cost, 7, 8 million. So he's been a bargain considering he's been here 10 years this summer. Club captain in the Championship. He was one of those that really, really fought for the club under Steve McLaren when things were going absolutely dire. He loves the club to bits. He's settled in the area with his family. He understands what the club means to the fans. And that's why sometimes I think the stick is a little bit over the top. Big fan of, critiquing players when things go wrong in terms of performance on the pitch. But I think sometimes the criticism can be a little bit over the top. He's always given his all for Newcastle United. He knows he's never going to be a world class centre back, but he's certainly come on leaps and bounds under Eddie Howe. It's a great deal for me, I think. Definitely. Let me know in the comments. Are you happy with Jamaal Lascelles signing a new deal at Newcastle United? And I just think he deserves a little bit more respect, if I'm being quite honest with you guys. Club captain for what, 8 of those 10 years thereabouts. He's been a tremendous servant, deserves this deal, can still do a job. Fully confident when he's called upon to replace Sven Botman, Fabian Schär, whether it's off the bench or it's through injury. That's where Howe's kept him. Great leader, great character, great ability. It makes perfect sense, and it allows Newcastle United to go and spend elsewhere in the summer, which is exactly what they need and what will be an absolutely critical summer for success in the next few years. So, yeah, I'm happy with it. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys very soon.